I'm literally like shaking right now, I just legit trembling inside. Hey everyone, it's your girl Cosmix Wonderland, and my video today is different than anything I've ever done before. It's raw, it's honest, it's about mental health. It addresses my experience with child abuse and my upbringing and just all the things that I didn't know in the past and what I do know now about my past and where I'm at today. And this is a very tough video for me to make. I've been putting this off for months. I wasn't expecting to make this video today, but it's kind of like ripping off a band-aid. I just need to do this. The longer I wait, the more difficult this video is going to be for me. It's already really difficult. Part of me wants to kind of disconnect while talking about this because it's so hard and I don't want this to be a video where I'm just crying the whole time. But there's probably going to be tears, and this is not at all easy for me to say. I hope that this comes out in a way that is enlightening, inspirational, all of those things. I'm making this video as a way of me trying to work through my past, acknowledge my past, conquer through my past, and use my past to help others. I'm all about spreading love and positivity, and I just hope, even though this video may seem very negative because it's filled with pain and it addresses issues that are incredibly difficult. At this point, if you are sensitive, you may be triggered by this video. It may trigger some of your PTSD. I know that it is triggering mine, and I haven't even started talking about it yet. But I have a lot to work through, and I just hope that by me telling my story that it can help others. Today's video is about me growing up from being a newborn to today, all that I've been through, all that I've seen, all that I know. And we're going to go ahead and start with when I was born. I was born on October 18th, 1993 in Colorado, and my mother, I'm going to call her Mitch. I kind of wanted to call her Mitch the bitch, but I'm just going to refer to her as Mitch to try and keep this video from seeming spiteful. I'm not trying to attack anyone with this video. I've been attacked enough, and I am just doing this for you guys for educational reasons. Anyways, so I was born October 1st, 1993 in Colorado, and my mother, Mitch, she has had her own issues in her life. Mitch had a lot of problems of her own, from sexual assault, mental illness, anger problems, and that's just what I was told was going on at the time of my birth. What she had dealt with up until that point when I was born, and I understand that that's very difficult for her because I have suffered from sexual assault, and I understand bipolar. I understand what it can do to certain people because I watched it. I watched it with my own mother, Mitch. What happened is Mitch knew that she couldn't provide for me. She couldn't take care of me mentally, emotionally, financially, in any capacity, have a child. And that's hard to hear and to know growing up as a young girl, that your mother isn't responsible enough to take care of you. So my grandmother, she stepped in But before we get to that, I want you guys to know I did live, I was a baby, but I did live with Mitch from birth to the age of 2. At the age of 2, I was removed from Mitch's care because when she took me, or maybe I just went with her to her own appointment, we were at the doctor's. I dropped my pacifier or my bottle, something, on the ground, and here's the thing, is I learned of this story from Mitch herself. She told me later on, many years later, that what happened and why I was not with her growing up is because at that appointment, when I threw my pacifier down, I need a minute. Okay. She went ballistic, had a manic episode, and she was screaming in the waiting room of the doctors, telling them that if they did not do something, that she was going to kill me. I was 2. I was 2 years old. Anyways, okay. At 2 years old, she was gonna kill me. So my grandmother stepped in so the state wouldn't take me and put me into foster care. And she came in like an angel. And she took me out of the situation. And she raised me from the age of 2 to about 10. And at that point, I had been growing up in a loving, oh my God, living with my grandmother was the best thing that ever happened to me during my youth. The home was full of love, laughter, support, wonderful role models. I love my grandma and my grandpa so much for taking me in and showing me what a real family is like and what to aspire to have for myself when I got older and had my own family. They really showed me what life and what a family unit should be, and I am so thankful. I love my grandma and my grandpa to death. They are the most amazing people ever. They saved my life. I honestly do not believe I would be here today making this video if it wasn't for them. Like, the doctors were freaking out, is what Mitch told me. I don't know all of the details. I don't know if she was able to leave with me after saying that to the staff. All that I know is my grandmother came in and she took me away to live with her. God rest her soul. And from the age of 2 to 10, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And this is for another video, but I do not think that attention deficit hyperness disorder is a disorder. It's not a bad thing that I can do multiple things at once, or that I'm creative and I talk a lot, and I know that it really did affect me in school because I had a hard time concentrating on things that didn't interest me. And I had a really rough time in school. I really struggled with my education. I want to say I did the best I could, but honestly I did not. My grandmother put up with a lot taking care of me, but the difference is that I have ADHD. I know I do. I see it in, the way that I do things, and we'll get into that later. That is 100% true. And the way that my grandmother handled that was completely for the benefit of me and my health, and the places she took me to get help actually helped me, and she did all that for the right reasons. It was true. I do have ADHD. I always have had ADHD. So I applaud her for getting me help with that. I really do. The problem is that during the time I stayed with my grandmother, I love her. I loved her. I still do. But every little girl wants to be with their mom, especially when right after I was taken, Mitch had my sister. My sister and me, my half-sister and me, are 2 years apart. So when I was removed, my sister was born, and, Mitch was and still is with my half-sister's father, my stepdad, and that was really hard for me growing up, knowing and thinking and telling myself that Mitch didn't want me. She didn't want me. She couldn't take care of me, but she was capable of having another baby and taking care of her, and it made me feel like I was nothing, like dirt. And so I had a hard time from 2 to 10. All the things I would tell myself, that I'm not good enough for my own mother to love me, to want me, to take care of me. And Mitch was in and out of my life. We would email on Yahoo from time to time, and her and my stepfather and my half-sister would come to visit occasionally, maybe once a year or so. Ish, something like that. The hard thing is I would go and stay with her from time to time, and my stepdad was always on the road. He did semi-truck driving, he did tow trucking and just stuff like that, so he wasn't really around during my childhood. Okay, and I have to throw this in. This is really important to the storyline. I'm sorry I forgot during the recording, but I'm going to throw it in now. I was over there one summer, and we were driving in the car, and I remember referring to my stepdad as Dad in a conversation, and he just turned around while driving and just told me with this cold look on his face that I'm not your dad. And that's all he said, and I started crying, and I was so confused. I was only about 8 years old, and I was like, what? You're not my dad? Who's my dad? And it was just really confusing. I love my half-sister, but I always had spite towards her, which was so wrong of me. It wasn't her fault. She wasn't better than me. It wasn't anything like that, but these are the things that I told myself. And it just really hurt, and it damaged me growing up, wondering, why doesn't my mother love me? Why doesn't she come take care of me? That's what moms are supposed to do, is raise their children. And, through the course of that, by the time I was 10, I needed to know why. My grandmother never really told me the entire truth. I did not know, and that's because my grandmother knew I wouldn't understand at that age anyways. If she had told me that her daughter had bipolar, I would have been like, what is that? I had no way of comprehending that at such a young age. And so my grandmother didn't tell me a whole lot. We talked a little bit about it, But, you know, it seemed as though Mitch was in a better place when I was older. And and the reason that my sister, my half-sister, didn't get removed is because my grandmother, Mitch didn't actually want to keep my sister either. She wanted to pawn her off on my grandma also. And my grandmother said, no, I cannot raise any more kids. If you're going to keep having kids, you need to learn to take care of them. And that's the reason that my sister stayed with her. It wasn't because she was better than me or that Mitch wanted her over me. That's why. Okay, so at 10 years old, I decided I need to know why, and I need to be with my mother. I need to be with Mitch. I don't know why. I just wanted to be with my mom, like every other normal kid at school who had a mom and a dad, and I didn't. And it really hurt me because my biological father was never in my life either. And so what happened is I went to go and live with her at 10 years old. My grandmother said, after a couple years of me really begging and wanting to do this, she thought, okay, I'm going to let Ashley do this. It's going to be okay. I can't shelter her forever. She needs to be with her mother. So she let me move in with my mother in Missouri. I'm sorry, this is so hard. This is when everything goes to shit. Worst mistake of my life. I'm literally shaking right now. Okay, so I'm sorry. So within my first year living with Mitch, I'm going to throw this in also. Understand that my memory is slightly foggy, and due to the trauma, my memories are kind of all over the place. But what happened during my first year, how this all went downhill, is my stepfather and my mother started telling me that my eating was a problem, that I was eating too much, that I'm going to get fat. Mind you, I was a 60-pound girl with thin jeans, okay? And they were monitoring my eating and bullying me for it, and I felt horrible. I was 10 years old, and I remember begging her in tears. I'm crying my eyes out, just begging her, will you please hug me? Will you please just ask me how my day at school was? Just hold me. Just touch me. Tell me I love you. I want to hear I love you. How was your day at school? And get a hug. And her response to me at 10 years old was, we don't do that in this household. We don't hug. We don't say I love you. That just doesn't happen in our house. You need to get over it. We're not going to do that. We don't know how to do that. I can't do that for you. And I went a good 2 years from 10 to 12, and no one in that house would ever hug me or tell me anything kind. And so then, on top of that, and I did start acting out a bit at 12 years old because I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel like I mattered or like that I was anything to her. I didn't know why she even let me move in if she wasn't going to love me. So that affected me a lot, and I was acting out a bit. I would cry, and I would isolate myself, and I didn't act the way a normal child should at that age because I wasn't in a normal environment like children my age. And then Mitch decided at 11, or maybe 12, I'm pretty sure it was 11, that she was going to take me to psychologists and psych facilities to have me labeled as bipolar. Now remember, Mitch is bipolar. So she already knew the ins and outs of those facilities, and I thought she was just taking me to take care of me as far as my ADHD was concerned, to continue what my grandmother had done, but I was wrong. She knew that if she could get me labeled as crazy and have people look at me like I was the problem, that it would dissolve all that she was doing. All of her problems would be minimalized, that she would have someone to blame instead of addressing the fact that she was a horrible mother. So I took the burden, I got labeled, and everyone blamed me for everything, and it wasn't right. She would take me from doctor to doctor, from the Ozark Center in Missouri to just a bunch of different places, and all of the horrible things that she would say about me and of me to these psychologists and therapists and med dispensers, whatever you want to call these people, really devastated me and my reflection on who I was as a person. I felt like I was the problem because she never took ownership of what she ever did wrong. She would just go in and badmouth me all the time, and it destroyed me. I didn't know how to make her love me. I just knew in my heart that she hated me. She convinced these doctors that there was something wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with me. Everything was wrong with her. But because of her illness, I hate giving credit to that. Like, she has control over what she does, you know? But she wanted to have me labeled as bipolar because she had such a hard time raising her own kids, and she was addicted to pills, and she had her own issues that she thought, if my daughter's doped up all the time, if she's drugged out of her mind, you know, and numb, that the crying over not getting hugs and all of that will stop, and I can deal with her. It wasn't ever about me getting help or that there was something wrong with me. She did that to me to make her life better and to ease her parenting, if that makes sense. She thought it'd be better to parent me with pills than with love. So from the age of 11 to 15, Mitch, we were in and out of counseling constantly. And this home that I was being brought up in was violent. My stepfather and Mitch were constantly getting in domestic violence situations where I remember at 12 that my stepdad and Mitch were in such a big argument that me and my sister were in my bedroom in the closet hugging each other and crying, and we were so scared. My stepfather was telling her he hoped she'd die, that he hated her. He was throwing things at walls. He took an ashtray and he chucked it at Mitch, and it missed her head. It went right by her and it stuck into the wall. There was a hole in the wall, and Mitch called the cops, and the cops came and removed him. My stepfather went to jail that night, and as he was being hauled off by police officers, me and my sister were holding each other, and all we could hear is, "I hope you die, bitch. I'll see you in f***ing hell." I had a suitcase packed, my little Barbie suitcase, my little tin metal Barbie suitcase, and I packed it with like underwear and t-shirts and, you know, pants and as much as I could fit in it. And I told my sister, At 11, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live here. And I don't know why I did not pick up the phone and have my grandmother come and get me. But instead I thought it would be better for me to just take off in the middle of the night and just walk. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anyone in Missouri except for them. I just thought I need to get out of here. I have to get out of here. This isn't okay. And anyway, so moving forward, I did not. My sister begged me not to, and I stayed because of her. I felt like I needed to protect her. I did not know that she was living in these conditions, and I felt so much guilt leaving her there that I stayed. And I also stayed because I just kept thinking and telling myself that if I'm good, if I do everything that Mitch wants me to, then she'll love me and we'll be a happy family and it'll be like a happily ever after. And that did not happen. So I got labeled at 11 as bipolar. I got put on a bunch of psych meds. The list is so long, so long. I couldn't even tell you guys. The list is so long. I was put on probably 50 to 100 different psych medications, from Klonopin to olanzapine and just a bunch of other ones I can't even think of at this moment. Oh, Depakote. Oh my god, that was horrible. Anyways, so that affected my ability to comprehend situations, to respond and react and grow as a person. It really stunted me mentally and emotionally to a point where I was doomed to succeed. There was so much going on. My brain was basically just fried. So anyways, and then, so from 12 to 15, what had happened was, after being on psych med after psych med, I started to hit puberty. I started liking boys. I wanted to make friends, and it was really hard because at 11, the first year of being in school in Missouri at Columbian Elementary in Carthage, what had happened was there was a pedophile working at the school, and he would pull us out of class to read to us, and he was grooming me. He would put his hand on my chair, like on the chair I'm sitting on, so I'm like, I don't want this grown man to touch my butt, so I would scoot and scoot so much to the point that I would have to stand up. His hand was in the middle of the chair. I had nowhere to sit. I was standing, and it was really hard for me because I did not feel safe at home, and I didn't feel safe at school either. And it got so bad that when he would come to pull me out of class, even though no one believed me and I couldn't explain, I just had this feeling in my gut, danger, danger, you're gonna get hurt, and you're gonna get hurt bad. Do not go with him. I would just go dead weight. I would just fall on the floor and start kicking and screaming and crying and praying that my homeroom teacher wouldn't make me go with this man. And after a while, and no, he never molested me or anything, but I was definitely being groomed. And so, oh my god. So what happened was after a few months, the school had reports from other little girls and boys that he had actually molested them. And he was arrested. He went to prison. And I just remember getting the news. And I was in the car with Mitch, and we were at Walmart. And I just started crying because that could have been me. And I told Mitch, he was trying to do stuff to me. and I was very emotional. I was like, it could have been me, and I felt so bad for my classmates that had to go through that. I'm a very compassionate person, and I just remember Mitch. I was 11, and she looked at me and she goes, "Stop crying, suck it up, get over it. He didn't actually do anything to you, so shut the fuck up." Anyways, and also, this pedophile would give out suckers and ask us to go ahead and eat them while reading, and I thought that was really weird. Figured out why. I'm on a bunch of psych meds. I'm at the point I'm 12, 13 now, and I'm starting to like boys, and I'm wanting to make friends because I haven't really made any, and Mitch wouldn't even let me have friends. Any friendships I started to make, she would go in and just implode them. She would tell 12-year-olds, don't be friends with my daughter, you know, and just, she would tell them the most awful things about me that weren't true, so they wouldn't like me. After a while, I thought, God, should I even try and connect to anyone? And I just started isolating myself really bad, and I think this is where I'm going to end this video for today. And when I do part 2, then I will discuss junior high school to the time when I ran away and what happened then. So this was difficult. I feel like it's beneficial to you guys to hear what I went through, not only so you guys can understand me as a person, but to take away from this anything. Take away anything that's helpful. So, thank you guys so much for listening to this video. I know it was probably difficult for you guys. It was difficult for me. I'm glad it's over for the day and I can breathe and just relax for the rest of the day. I'm not going to think about any of this. I'm not going to let it bring me down. I feel a little bit better that it's coming out. I'm not being silent anymore, and I really do feel like by me being brave and talking about all this that it can help you guys. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Stay fantabulous, and as always, I will stay fantabulous for you guys. Bye.